So the Blazers had a tough loss to the Pelicans last night. They missed a whole bunch of threes. Melo had a pretty good box score. And we're going to talk about Carmelo Anthony in this video, because I think this is something worth monitoring throughout the season, like how good has Melo been, or how good has he not been, or whatever. Now before I say a whole bunch of stuff, I will say this. I think Melo has been good for them. I think he's been a positive. I'll get into it later on, but the starting lineup is very positive with him in there. And I think he's proven that he still has a place in the NBA. You know, there are definitely some games that are better than others. I mean, his free throws have been kind of interesting. He's had a few games where he's shot like 6 or 7 free throws, and he's had some games where his threes have been pretty good. But he's also had quite a few games where he's shooting like 7 for 17 against the Warriors, or 5 for 13 against the Knicks, 4 for 18 against the Thunder. Like there's definitely these types of games. 4 for 13 against the Lakers. Granted, in that one he did shoot quite a few free throws to help him out a little bit. And these are the recent ones. These aren't even like the first few where we expected that he was going to have a little bit of a tough time out of the gate. So, you know, what does that all mean? Well, for one, I think this Blazers team has kind of needed him. And you'd think that if he was on a team that didn't need him to facilitate as much offense, I say facilitate, shot create, whatever you want to call it, that his percentages would probably be a little better, because his threes have been good. He is shooting over 40%. But, you know, if you look at just some of the games played, there's definitely the Melo like post-ups and ISOs at the elbow, and there's been a fair share of turnaround jumpers and floater attempts, and it has been a lot of that stuff, which we were fearful of. But the shooting has me intrigued enough to be like, well, if he was on a team that didn't need him as much to do that stuff, maybe he would be content with spotting up a little bit more. I mean, he did shoot 50% of his shots, actually over 50% of his shots, from 3 for OKC. Now for the Blazers, it's, 28% of his shots have been from 3, and it's been about 40% of his shots from mid-range. And the mid-range percentages have not been great. I mean, he's been a little better from like 13 feet than long 2-point range, but it all matters, so... Okay, you probably wish he was attempting more threes, but I guess we can be intrigued by how good he's been from 3 nonetheless. In terms of how he fits in with everybody else, he has set quite a few screens, which was something I questioned. I'm pretty sure in that video I specifically was like, I don't know if Melo's going to set a single screen for this team. He's actually set quite a few. Now, how successful has it been? I don't know. But I think the fact that he's been willing to do it is nice. And if you put those two things together, making threes and then also being willing to set screens, even if they may not always be the greatest screens in the world, it's like, okay, I could picture that being used on a team where they don't need him to do anything besides finish plays, basically. In terms of his defense, well, for what it's worth, his steal and block numbers have actually been pretty good the past few games. He's basically a net slightly negative, but effectively a neutral in the past 10 games for this team. And in the last 10, last 9, the starting lineup, which has played the most amount of minutes by far, has actually been really good. It's been a +9. And they've been great defensively when it's Melo, Whiteside, Dame, Bazemore, and CJ. Now, does that directly answer the question if Melo's been good on defense? No, but they're making it work with him at times. There's other lineups he's in where they're terrible, but I don't know if that's necessarily his fault. This team is also really bad when Dame sits, so it might just be any lineup number you want to look at is just simply, is Dame on the floor or is he not? But again, this is mainly about Melo. So other things, it seems like he's had pretty good lift when going to the rim. I mean, just looking at a few of his dunks, some of them have been like lucky opportunity things where it's a weird bounce, but there have also been some intriguing things where he's chilling from around 12 feet or so and he'll set a screen and he can just kind of finish without having to actually dribble, which I think is nice. It's a nice way to kind of take advantage of his craftiness without forcing him to like beat somebody off the dribble all the time. Now, his actual finishing around the rim has not been very good, but I'm not able to check like last X amount of games on Basketball Reference, or maybe I just don't know how. So, maybe it's a little better than what that number wants to tell me right now. Now, are there potential things about Melo's game that are still popping up that are not the best besides whatever I've talked about? Yeah, I think, he was never a natural playmaker. I mean, he was competent. He could make the obvious pass, but there have been a few times where Whiteside has been chilling around the rim, doing what you'd expect him to do, and then Melo just kind of drives in without a real plan. There's a chance that he's perhaps still a little excited about, proving himself, and that's fine, but there are definitely times when it's like, like the drive itself was good, but you either had a pass, like a dump-off pass off to Whiteside, or maybe you shouldn't have chose to just go all the way in. So those are random little things, but he's also had some moments of finishing through contact, and he has been able to beat some guys off the dribble, so that is nice. And the Blazers have thrown him the ball like in post-ups, and he's had really quick decisions that sometimes have or have not gone in or whatever, but that's, for 35-year-old Carmelo Anthony, I think this is all intriguing enough. And again, I think it goes back to the idea of, I could see him playing for a good team next season, perhaps one that if he's asked to do a little bit less with the ball and, just really is like a finisher and that's it, then I think he could be pretty good. Should Portland consider keeping him? I don't know. I mean, who the hell knows what Melo would even expect on the open market? I really have no idea. Maybe it'd be a mid-level. Maybe he would expect 14, 15 million. Maybe he would get like 4. I don't know. The Blazers are at 97 million, which gives them something to do in cap space. Not a crazy amount, but it's more than nothing. I don't know. I mean, unless they foresee some way to have a huge upgrade along the wing positions, maybe you are keeping Carmelo Anthony if you're Portland. I mean, Collins and Rodney Hood are going to be back at some point, so there's that. Well, Hood does have a player option, so we'll have to see there. And perhaps they'll consider bringing Bazemore back. I don't know. His advanced stats have been really good in the past whatever games, if, take that for whatever it's worth. So, I mean, there is a chance that the wing rotation looks a little better next year once everyone's healthy, and I'm sure that'll determine if Melo stays or not. But I'll tell you this much. I think Melo will definitely be in the NBA next year, based on the 15 games he's played. Has it all been great? No. I mean, his efficiency overall is actually technically bad. But, I don't know. It seems like he'll probably have a place again, so that's cool.